Hello and welcome to this lesson in the series of Introduction to Computers, a course that will give you an overview of how computers work, the different aspects, what makes a computer, things like input and output, memory versus storage, binary, and also defining what a computer is. But in this lesson will be focusing on something called hardware and software. And this will be the final lesson in this course, and it will kind of bring everything together to sort of bring everything to a close. Now, a computer, right? When you think of it, usually you would think of the physical aspects of the computer, right? So a keyboard, a monitor, screen, mouse, etc. But that's only half the story. That's only the hardware part that makes the computer. You also have the other half, which is software, which is all the things that run on the computer, right? So any program, any application, any form of software, any system that runs on a computer is the other part, which is software. So I'm going to break the two down, explain what they are, the differences, characteristics, examples, and so forth, in order to sort of help define what hardware is, what software is. So let's continue. And first of all, we have hardware. Okay, so like I said, hardware is essentially any physical part of the computer, and more sort of visibly, it will be the external things such as keyboards and mouse and monitor, but also internally, right? So also the things that you cannot see, the things like the motherboard, the CPU, the chips, the circuits, all of these things are part of the hardware of the computer. So it usually consists of some sort of circuit. It's connected with other parts, other hardware devices in order to form a complete machine. So for example, you can have circuits from the keyboard attached to the monitor, the screen, circuits from the touchpad attached to the screen, and so forth. So hardware, the people who make and deal with this whole sort of study, this whole field of study, are called computer engineers, right? So anything that's created related hardware or maintained even, right? Anything that's updated, upgraded, whatever, is done by computer engineers. So there are other terms for computer engineers. You can have very specific, distinct roles within this field, but essentially computer engineers or hardware engineers are the people who will deal with these sort of things. So if you're interested in the hardware side of computers, right, if you want to go and develop some physical parts of a computer, yeah, you might want to make some new processing chips, you might want to make some new displays, screens, new keyboards, etc. You want to be looking into the sort of computer engineers, hardware engineers side of things as your potential career. So some examples of hardware, I've already mentioned some of them: keyboard, mouse, monitor. You can also have things like the motherboard, like I said, the camera, the integrated cameras, integrated microphones, speakers, and so forth. So these are all hardware. Half the story. We're going to cover the next half in the next uh, slide. So now we're going to talk about software, right? So this is all the virtual parts of the computer. So anything that you see on the computer running on a screen is basically a virtual part, which is a software. So any program that runs on the computer will be making use of the hardware components, right? You can't have a playing without a screen, right? You can't have a video playing without an actual monitor. You just wouldn't be able to do that. Similarly, software data is translated into the language that hardware can understand, and vice versa. So this sort of goes back to the idea of digital versus analog, right? That we spoke about in the input and output lesson. So hardware speaks in one form of data, software speaks in another form of data, digital versus analog, the other way around. And you have to sort of make the two communicate with each other in an effective and efficient manner. So we have to translate one into the other, depending on where the information is flowing, where the data is flowing. Right. So if you're interested in software side of things, if you want to develop some software, you are looking to go into the field of software engineers or software developers. There are additional roles distinct specific roles for specific areas of software development, so you can have a look at that. But any software, any program is created and maintained by such software and engineers and developers. And some examples of software include the OS, right, the operating system, so things like Windows or Mac OS and Linux and so forth. You also have internet browsers, games, any application essentially that runs on a computer is part of the software. So this is a second half. And this is where the sort of binary aspect comes into play, right? So if you have to convert something from hardware to something a computer can understand, you have to do it via the software, which will incorporate binary and taking data and converting it into a more sort of appropriate format for a software. So that was a quick short lesson in hardware versus software, and it's going to be the final lesson. So if you want to do a quick recap before the final challenge, then go through the other videos again, right? So you have things like defining a computer. That's the first one we started off with. Then we explained what memory versus storage was. We also explained binary, input versus output, and hardware versus software. So thank you for watching this lesson. And if you watched all the other lessons in this series, thank you for watching the whole series. Hopefully it was useful. Hopefully it's given you an understanding of some level of understanding of how computers work, what they're made up of, how computers interact, how the computers, different parts of computers interact with each other, and so forth. And yeah, if you have more information, um, always just Google it. I mean, Google's your best friend, and in the future I'll be making additional courses related to computers, computer science, programming languages, and etc. So yeah, so just be on the lookout for those as well. And yeah, if you're interested in computers, it's a massive field and there's so much to learn, but it's so much interesting stuff as well out there. So yeah, thank you for watching. Hope you had a good experience, and good luck in your future endeavors.